So hey guys, welcome to the Qcast. That's a really good way of saying a podcast with Steve Q. It's a Qcast. And my guest today is an absolute hero. He's a legend from Luton. He's a former British, Commonwealth, European and world boxing champion, yeah? He's also one of the UK's and actually one of the world's leading inspirational and motivational speakers, and a peak performance coach who gets mega results for his clients, yeah? He's also written a book called Man Up, the World Champion Way, yeah, 12 rounds with Billy Schwer, and he's also launching a new, just launched a new coaching program for salespeople, for executives, for anybody who wants to go to the next level, and that's 12 rounds with the Championship Way, 12 weeks, 12 rounds with Billy Schwer. So please welcome former light welterweight champion of the world, Billy Schwer. How you doing, dude?
Happy Monday to you, my friend.
Happy Monday to you, man. It's so nice to see you on here on Zoom.
You know what Monday is, right? You know what Monday is? Monday is Jab and Move Monday.
Jab and Move Monday. I love that.
Make it a good one.
Make it a good one. I'm always surprised, especially with a lot of people who don't earn money over the weekend. You see them on a Monday morning and they're like, it's like hardwired into a load of people, this bullshit, isn't it? It's Monday morning. Do you know what I mean? But it's the first opportunity you've had after the weekend to get out there, make a difference and earn some dough.
I view every Monday as a bank holiday Monday. Every Monday is a bank holiday Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you doing there in Luton? How's your weekend been? What have you been up to, Billy, before we get into it?
Well, as you know, I'm living up in Yorkshire at the moment as we speak.
Yeah.
So I've had a great weekend. Lovely, really calm, cool. Did a bit of training, went for a nice run yesterday.
Fantastic. Good.
I've had some great conversations with some amazing people.
Yeah.
This new program that you mentioned. So I've been putting that out there. So I've got 4 calls lined up today with some extraordinary. The conversations I've been having have been just amazing.
Yeah, it is. When you get into it. Yeah, I just saw you last night. You did a podcast recently with JP de Villiers, yeah?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. JP, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know him personally. I've had a few messages with him a year or two back on LinkedIn, and then obviously he's come back from having that massive. He had an accident, didn't he? Got knocked off his push bike in Scotland, and I mean, what a comeback story that is.
That man is an absolute superstar.
He's an Iron Man, isn't he?
He really is, yeah. And he's a gentleman as well. He's such a lovely guy. I've known JP I've known him for probably over 10 years or so. And he is an inspiration. His story is so inspiring. And that, like you say, the accident that nearly killed him.
Yeah.
And his recovery from that. I mean, I think it's about a year later. And it's been one hell of a challenge, man, to come back from where he's been. Unbelievable. Yeah. He got smashed. His body got smashed to pieces. He got smashed up.
Pieces, yeah.
He got broken everywhere.
I know. I was following the story on, because obviously his better half was putting the stories and it's all been posted on LinkedIn so I could see, and my goodness, just an absolute inspiration, commendable inspiration to us all. So are you. I mean, I've been obviously I wouldn't be worth my salt if I didn't do. I mean, I know a lot about you. We've met, we've had a few beers before, but so 39 wins out of 45 fights. That's a great record, yeah. And 30 of them, you knocked them out.
Big KO, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always interested because I loved boxing when I was a kid, you know, and I liked to watch Muhammad Ali, and it was Joe Bubner and Muhammad Ali. You remember those fights, yeah? And then Marvin Hagler and all that. But I don't know, something got in the way. I think it was called Led Zeppelin and Girls. And so I fully intended to sort of train, and I didn't. And then, you know, when I was about 42, 43, I met a lovely guy called Errol Christie. I've told you this story before, yeah? And so I got into it, and then I got into Muay Thai and the whole thing. And I just completely love this sport, love watching it, love talking about it in any aspect, yeah? But what got you into it? What got Billy Schwer into becoming Billy the Boxer?
So it's a great question, because that's the question that I like to pose to people. Do you ever wonder how you ended up the way you ended up, and why you do what you do? Why do we all do what we do? The jobs that we have, the life that we have, the relationships that we've got, why do we have those? So why did I become Billy the Boxer? That's a fascinating story. And I've looked at my life and I've dismantled it and I've taken it to pieces so I could really discover who Billy the Boxer was. Because when I used to step into the ring as a professional boxer fighting for world championships, I used to go in the ring prepared to die. My life was kill or be killed. That killer instinct, do we all possess it? Is it alive in us all? Those questions just fascinated me. So I've dismantled my life and my past to really get clear about who I am. Because Billy the Boxer got created from when I was 5 years of age. That's when it all started. And I can remember being in my mum and dad's front room with my two older sisters, Mandy and Lisa. So I'm 5 years of age. Lisa's 8 and Mandy's 11. And we're rolling around the floor and they're beating me up. Well, they're just kids being kids. Just they meant no harm. Just my sisters just messing about me. And what they used to do, they used to pin me to the floor. So I'd one sitting on my chest, and one with my arms back. And I'd be kicking and screaming and fighting. I just couldn't fight them off. And I used to get so upset that I used to hyperventilate and turn blue. I thought I was going to die. I couldn't breathe. I was like, oh. Wow. And in that moment, I made the decision. I decided that no one was ever going to beat me, dominate me, hurt me, or get on top of me ever again, especially women. One divorce later. But it is in that moment I made an unconscious decision about myself. I decided that I was weak. So as a 5-year-old, I couldn't fight my sisters off. So I made it up that I was weak. So then that decision I made went into my future. So then I had to find a way to cover up and survive being weak, because I didn't know anyone to know I was weak.
Did that being weak then, did that become your self-talk? Did that become the paradigm that you created for yourself?
Unconsciously. I didn't even know that. So it's only until later when I've gone back and I've reflected and I've dismantled myself, but that was exactly right. The self-talk would have been, I'm weak.
Yeah.
So then for me, in that moment, I could have went either way. I could have went the way that I did and leveraged that story that I had about myself and leveraged that and used that as a moving away from motivator. So that motivated me to do what I did. I was going away from being weak. Or I could have become a victim of my situation or my circumstance.
Sure.
So unconsciously, I chose that way. So a lot of us in life, we end up somewhere and we don't really know how we've got there.
But we just get there, don't we? And
we end up somewhere, but we're not really clear how we got there.
Sure.
So the work that I do, and what I'm really interested in, is how did you end up being there? And is that impacting you in any way? Because my decision about myself that I was weak, I used it and I leveraged it and it had me become a world champion. But it was a constraint. Because some of the stories that we have about ourselves, they're not real.
Yeah.
We've all got an opinion of ourselves, right? Everyone.
Yeah.
My mum says opinions are like belly buttons. We've all got one and they're all different.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
Is your opinion?
I love what Earl Nightingale, well, no, it wasn't Earl Nightingale actually, but he quoted it a lot from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. He said that opinions are the cheapest commodities in the world. And it's right. And you know what? I would add, Steve Q would add to that everybody's got one. Oh, actually, everybody is just a composite of a multitude of opinions, and like at any second, you don't even need to give them a full-on invite. You know, they're just dying to regurgitate them all over you, and they're usually based on other people's opinions, which are based on bullshit. Yeah, a lot of them they're misinformed. They're born out of ignorance, and yet we take them into our subconscious, and they become our story.
And then that shapes our future.
Ooh.
So that's how Billy the Boxer got created from 5 years of age. And then I got bullied when I was around 8, 9, 10, 11 years old in school. I got bullied.
Right.
So that just reinformed the same story. That I was weak. Reinforced it that I was weak. So then I was looking for a way to survive it. And it's a real tough time for me at that time, that little period. Yeah. So then I found boxing. So luckily enough, my dad, well, it's not by accident. So my dad used to be a boxer. So I used to see all my dad's boxing equipment in the loft. You know, the old black and white pictures, the old boxing gloves. Well, they were old boxing gloves, the old horsehair. Remember those boxing gloves?
Proper old,
old school. So I was aware of something, but I wasn't really consciously aware of it. And then the story goes that I asked my dad to take me down the gym when I was around 8 years of age. So my dad took me down to a gym, and then my dad ran this boxing gym. And that was the start of it. And he taught me how to box. So my dad taught me how to box from when I was 8 years of age. And that's when I started.
Yeah.
And then, so then I had my first contest when I was 11. So I won my first 2 fights. I can remember really clearly. And on my third fight, again, it was a black tie dinner. So there was hundreds of people, guys in black ties watching the boxing. And I remember 3 rounds. I go to the centre of the ring and I'm standing there waiting for the decision. And I think I've won my first 2 fights. I don't know anything else apart from winning. Yeah. So they make the announcement and the winner is, and I was lost. I was absolutely devastated. And it's a guy called Jason Meager, right? And we're good friends now, right? So when I was 11, Jason Meager propelled me forward because in that moment I made a decision that I wasn't good enough. Yeah. I was in the ring after the fight. My dad was in my corner, and I'm absolutely devastated. I'm in floods of tears. I'm uncontrollable. I'm devastated. Imagine. And I made that decision that I wasn't good enough. So there I'm 11 years of age. I have a story that I'm weak and I'm not good enough. So that's a great recipe for somebody to become a world champion.
Isn't it?
I was so driven to prove otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's how Billy the Boxer got created. From 5 years old, my whole life's been about trying to prove something. I'm just trying to prove.
I think a lot of people's, it's interesting that you kicked off with your dad because it's Joe Calzaghe did the same. His dad trained him, didn't he? He got him into it, trained him.
The most successful fighter that's come out of Britain. The most successful fighter to come out of Britain, Joe Calzaghe.
Do you know him personally?
Yes. Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So you've won, though. I mean, this is the full gamut, isn't it? It's the British, the Commonwealth, the European. It's like you're going up a gear each time, yeah? The British, the Commonwealth, the European. And then eventually, after numerous attempts, you won the world title. So how old were you when you won when you were the British lightweight boxing champion? How old were you?
So I had a great amateur career, travelled all around the world, won titles, represented England, boxed for England. And then at the age of 21, I decided to turn pro and give it a shot, make a living at it. And I was good. So I thought, let's try it out. Let's give it a go. Then I signed up with Mickey Duff, his management team. So at that time, he was the man. He was the main man at that time. So I signed up with Mickey. And it was Mickey Duff, Terry Lawless, Jarvis Astaire. They were on the BBC. So we used to box on BBC Sports Night, if you can remember that.
Yes, I do.
Harry Carpenter. So that was when it all started. And
yes.
So I turned pro at 21. At 23, top of the bill at the Royal Albert Hall. And I was boxing, challenging for the British and Commonwealth title against a guy called Carl Crook. He was an ex-paratrooper. He was the man, and I was the young pretender. Just coming through the ranks, and there I am. And it was an amazing fight, amazing. I stopped him in the end of the 9th round, so I was crowned a British and Commonwealth champion. and I was 23 at that time.
That was at the Royal Albert Hall, yeah. Was that the ABAs at the Royal Albert Hall then?
The ABAs were there then, yes, because I got to the final of the ABAs at the Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah.
Then I turned pro, and then two years later, that's when I won the British and Commonwealth title. And now the Royal Albert Hall is my favourite venue. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's an amazing place, yeah.
So the changing rooms, it's like a circular building. The changing rooms are underground.
Uh-huh.
So when it was my turn to fight, we had to walk up into the arena, and it was like being like gladiator. You was walking into the amphitheater. It was amazing.
I can imagine. I'll tell you a funny story. Have you ever been to Rome?
I haven't yet, no.
I went to Rome, and I'd been on holiday for about 3 weeks in Florence. So we thought we'd have a few days in Rome and then I think we went to Portofino on the way back. And I've always wanted to go to the Colosseum. That film Gladiator with Russell Crowe is one of my favourite. I must have watched that into double figures, yeah? You know, and so I go there on there one day, they had an electrical problems and it was shut. So I'm looking in, you're looking in, but I mean, even then to go in there, I wanted to go, it sounds a bit macabre, but it's not. I wanted to go in there because I know how much blood has been spilt on that floor and just like soak up history. Do you know what I mean? It's, yeah. What do you, I've often wondered, what do you think when you're, I mean, if I've trained with anybody here in Asia or anyone, I remember say, oh, let's do some sparring. I don't, and the guy's a lovely guy, and you know him well because he's your trainer, but then my stomach wells up and I get nervous and I tense up. So I cannot only imagine what is it like going out in front of thousands of people, knowing that millions are watching on television, to go and slug it out with another guy and beat the shit out of each other.
It's kind of crazy. It's very barbaric, right? But we love it. And now as a professional boxer, I used to step into that ring, and that was my place. That was me, and that was my expression. That was my way of excelling at something, because I didn't get on very well at school. I'm dyslexic. I struggled. But sport was my outlet, and boxing was my thing, and it was like they just fitted together. And like the last of the gladiators, boxers are gladiators. Here's the thing about boxing, right? You play rugby, you play football, you play golf, you play sport, but you don't play boxing.
You don't play boxing.
You don't play boxing. You go into the ring as a professional, only as a professional, not as an amateur. Amateur boxing is very different to professional boxing. But as a professional boxer, you walk into the ring to cause bodily damage. Now, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And we all know that. Now, we all know that. And we accept that. And accidents do happen. I've had a friend of mine killed in the ring. I know guys that have been brain damaged, permanently brain damaged. And I've been in hospital a couple of times myself with concussion. It's a brutal, beautiful business. But to excel at that was my thing. And then walking
brutal and beautiful at the same time.
Yes, it's art.
Both sides of the coin.
Absolutely. And boxing is commonly known as the noble art, the sweet science.
Yes.
And it really is that. If you could view it as an art, and it's barbaric at the same time, it's Beauty and the Beast, right? And they go together. So some people really appreciate that and acknowledge that and accept that. And some people are against it, which I can understand as well. Yeah. But as men, we go into the ring and we choose. That's our choice. We're free to choose.
I've always thought those people who are vehemently against these contact sports like boxing and kickboxing and Muay Thai or whatever, if you're against it, if you hate it, if you think it's that barbaric, don't do it, don't watch it. It's really as simple as that, because not everything is for every. It's funny as well about those, you say those injuries and stuff, because I have a friend who's a K1 fighter. I know him from Spain. and again, it's someone I used to spar with, and he was actually coming over and winning stuff in England, and he had a professional fight in England, and he just ate one on the jaw, a thick fist, not a foot. Didn't look like anything in particular, and then like 30 seconds later, he just spiraled down, and he ended up with like a cloud on the brain, and he's still not right. But it didn't look like a particularly big one. It's just, it was just the bad luck of the draw, you know?
Yes, and that can be genetics as well, on your brain, how thick's your skull. There's a lot of factors involved in it. But first and foremost, it's a brutal thing, and it's kind of not a natural thing. But with professional boxing, it's the rounds and rounds and rounds of training and preparation for the fight. So there's a lot of damage done over the years. So it may not just be a one thing. It could be an accumulative thing. But again, who knows? There's lots of debate.
I watched this epic tear up that you had with a guy called Colin Dunn.
Yes.
And you know, I remembered watching that fight live when I watched it again in prep for talking to you a couple of days ago. I mean, you both should have been champions out of that fight. In fact, one of the commentators said, this is a fight that nobody deserves to lose, you know? It was an epic fight. I mean, Jesus. You just smashed the shit out of each other, didn't you? And no one would stop. It was like watching the Terminator ×2. Do you know what I mean?
It was voted contest of the year by the British Boxing Board of Control. Colin got the decision. It's a split decision, and it was like you say, it should have been a draw. It could have went either way, and it's kind of one of those fights. And it was an epic.
You've never had any draws, have you, in your career? None have been, you know, like Tyson and Deontay draw, the first one. Yeah, you've never had that split decision total draw, have you?
No, I've always, one way or the other.
As a result, yeah. So tell us about winning the world championship then, before we get into the book and that. Tell us about that, please.
So my first attempt at the world title was after winning the British and Commonwealth title. I then lost it, then I regained it, then I had a great management team. I got myself worked up the world rankings. And so I got a shot at the world title, which ended up being in Las Vegas. It was supposed to happen a few months prior to that in Hong Kong, but that got called off. Okay. So we're fighting in Las Vegas. I'm top of the bill, challenging for the IBF world title. I'm boxing a guy called Rafael Ruelas, a real tough Mexican guy. And Michael Buffer. Remember Michael Buffer? Let's get ready to rumble.
Legend.
The fight was an absolute battle. About 3 or 4 rounds in, disaster struck. I got a big cut over my eye.
Yeah, watched it.
Blood everywhere. So then I battled on. Lucky enough, I had the best cuts man in the world, Denny Mancini, in my corner. And he was looking after me, doing the best he could. He saved me on many occasions. So he patched me up, carry on boxing. I was forced in the fight, but then bang, disaster struck again. I got another cut over the other eye. So I had 70 stitches eventually over my eye. So eventually
70
stitches, yeah.
Wow, 70 stitches over your eyes.
Yeah. So then the referee Mills Lane comes to my corner after the 7th or 8th round. He looks at the damage, kind of says, "Listen, I'm going to give you one more round." That's what he said. He said, "Kid, I'm going to give you one more round." And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, shit. Because what he meant was, you've got to go and knock him out in this next round. If you don't knock him out, we're going to stop the fight. So I went out, I had a great round, didn't knock him out. They stopped the fight. So my dream got shattered. So that was that one. So that was my first attempt. So I had 70 stitches, come home, allow myself to heal, get back to work, because I had a great team of people around me, great management, great coaches, fitness coaches, nutritionists, my boxing trainer, gentleman Jack Lindsay from Luton. Now, Jack was just an absolute beautiful man. I call him Gentleman Jack. Sure. He liked top pro. He used to paint and draw. He was softly spoken. And he's made a difference to thousands of kids in Luton who have come through his door and used his gym. He's a superstar.
Amazing.
We sit down with Jack and we go, okay, so when we get back to work, and then I work my way back up the European rankings. And then I get to rank #1 in Europe. Then I go over to Spain and I challenge and win the European title. I come back, I defend it 3 times. So then I'm ranked #1 in the world by the WBC. So I get another opportunity to fight for the world title. Wembley Arena, great contest, goes full 12 rounds. I get bashed up again, more blood and guts everywhere, big cut across the bridge of my nose. Anyway, I lost that decision. Again, points decision. I got beat on that one. Yeah. There was a lot of controversy after this fight because he failed the drug test. Oh. The guy was so quick. He was the best in the world, and he was so quick. You couldn't catch him. It was amazing. Yeah. He was.
What was his name?
Stevie Johnson.
Yeah.
So then what happened was, so we failed the drug test, and it was like, no wonder I couldn't catch him. He was that quick. That quick. I hate people who take drugs. The police, customs and excise.
Yeah.
You'll get that joke.
we get the joke. Yeah.
We get the joke. Let's not go there, right? But what happened was he got off on a technicality. So he went back to America. He kept his world title. I went back to Luton. Had to rebuild myself again. So I get back to work. I had the dream, the vision. I got another shot at the world title against the fight that you talked about, Colin Dunn. I lost that one on a split decision. I then go again. And I fought my 4th attempt. And eventually I won the world title on my 4th attempt.
Wow.
And it was a one hell of a journey, winning the British, the Commonwealth, the European, and eventually the World Championships.
You kept on keeping on, you persisted. So if you'd stayed in boxing, do you think you'd have ever got to, because you're probably not that far away time-wise and weight-wise, because he did 8 divisions, Pacquiao. Do you think, would you have liked to have fought Pac-Man?
I would have loved to have fought him, yes, of course. We would fight anyone. We would fight anyone. Boxers. At a certain level, you just want to fight everyone and everyone.
I nearly met him. You know, I was a few years ago. I was in the Philippines, and he lives in a very nice, they've got these nice private estates dotted around Manila, and he lives in one called Forbes Park, and. But I was just in bed, I was very tired, I had a big day ahead, and a guy that I knew over there said, I'm going out tonight, very good chance we can meet Pac-Man. Do you want to come along? And I'm like, I'd love to, but I am, no. I'm going to regret it all day tomorrow. I trained at an old gym there, proper spit and sawdust place from a very well-known Filipino fighter called Elorde.
Right.
You heard the name, Elorde Gym.
Great fights come out of there, right?
Proper place. So from being a boxer and getting smashed up and bashed up and that, and you're now an author, a motivational speaker, you speak to the audiences of thousands of people. You go into companies and you coach directors, you coach salespeople, management people. What was the transition? Because obviously that is not a natural thing to go out of punching people's lights out, getting your face smashed in, 70 stitches over your eyes, to going into the corporate world. So how did that come about?
It kind of, when I retired from boxing, I found the transition from being a professional athlete to life in the so-called real world, a very difficult one. So it was when I won the world title, I ended up in hospital. I was in hospital for 2 days with concussion, but I was released. I was okay. So then I had my next fight, my first defense, only 3 months later. And I remember training for the fight. I remember getting punched in the head, and it didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. But I didn't tell anyone, because boxers, we're our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
So I kept that quiet and I carried on. I had my first defense of my world title only 3 months later, and I got knocked out. Bang. Game over. I got knocked out in the 11th round. So there I go back to hospital, but this time I travel in style. I go in the back of the ambulance.
Yeah.
So I'm in the back of the ambulance. We're rushing to hospital. The sirens are blaring. We're dodging through the traffic. And I'm conscious, but I'm uncertain of my future health, as we've talked about. I was frightened because I went in the ring prepared to die. And maybe I was about to. That was my thought. Maybe this is it. Maybe I've gone too far.
All these thoughts coming in.
That's it. And so in that moment, I made the toughest decision in the back of that ambulance that I've ever made, to retire from boxing.
Yeah.
I mean, we all at some point may have to make a life-changing decision. They're not easy.
So in the back of that ambulance, you decided, as far as boxing was concerned, it was game over.
Game over. So then also, unconsciously, what I decided was, my life is over. What's the point? I've no longer got any more. I've got no meaning. My life has no meaning. I couldn't see a future for myself outside of the boxing ring. I no longer had a purpose, a vision. There was nothing to live for.
You'd kind of come full circle from getting out of that victim drama that you had when you were a little boy about, you know,
yeah.
You come now you're a victim again because you can't box anymore and it's all over. Life's over.
Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. So there I am, and then I go, well, where do I go now? And I ended up being a victim of my situation and my circumstance, because I went through an identity crisis, because my whole life from a kid of 8 was Billy the boxer. And then who's Billy? So there I am, a 31-year-old man. Who's Billy? Who is Billy? I started to question myself. Who am I? What am I doing? What's the point? What's the meaning of all this? You know, those big questions that we ask ourselves. That's when this came together, mental boxing. The words mental and boxing came together at that point in my life, because I was having a mental boxing match with myself. Can I? Can't I? What should I do now? Is it possible? Am I going to look stupid? Am I good enough? All of those conversations that I was having with myself.
Yeah.
That's when those words...
Do you think you was having a bit of a mental breakdown inside?
I did, yeah. I went the first 2 years of my retirement, the worst 2 years of my life. I was lost, had no focus. I went through, I was depressed.
Yeah.
I was depressed.
Did you know you were depressed?
No, because I was trying to fight my way forward. I was trying to fight through it, trying to figure it out, but making a mess of it. I wrecked my marriage, which ended up in divorce.
Yeah.
And the impact of all that stuff was, I got caught out. It was 2007, 2008. I got caught up in that recession, and I went bankrupt because I had a couple of properties repossessed. So my home was repossessed. I had no money. I had nothing. I had no future. And I felt like a complete failure because I'd failed. Because I was stuck and I couldn't see a way out. And I hit the bottom. I crashed. And when I hit rock bottom, but luckily enough, I had some great people around me. My family were amazing. I moved back home with my parents and I had to start again from nothing. So then it was a case of reinventing and recreating myself. And I had a mental breakdown. But at that time, mental health wasn't really discussed as openly as it is now.
No.
This is like 18 or so years ago. It wasn't really talked about. So I didn't know what to do. I was trying to figure it out and making a mess of it. Eventually I can recall it so clearly. I got to a point of, I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Just kept saying, every day I was saying that to myself.
You're reinforcing it when you say that, though, aren't you?
What did I get? And what did I get more of it? I got more of it.
More sickness and tiredness, yeah.
Exactly, and I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, and I was stuck. And eventually I found the courage to reach out and ask for help. I got myself a coach. So all athletes, we all have coaches. Business people have coaches. And sometimes we need a coach for our lives. I needed some help. So look, if you look back over history, we've got Robin Williams, Amy Winehouse, George Michael, Elvis, to name a few extraordinary people, but they just couldn't manage their lives.
Yeah, they couldn't manage their lives, yeah. They could manage everything else. They could have created some miracles, but they just could not manage their own lives, those sort of people. And Tyson Fury's done a lot, hasn't he? Bless him, for bringing mental health into the fore and making, I mean, if a big 6'9" guy, bruiser like him, I love him. He's such a personality and he's an amazing fighter. But if he can say to the world that I had mental problems, thought I was, and he had loads of money in the bank. He wasn't even skint or bankrupt or house repossessed. So it can happen to anyone, can't it?
Anybody. And especially now with what we're going through, lots of people are going to be suffering. There's a lot of suffering going on right now during this lockdown. Huge change paradigm, you know, huge paradigm shift. Yeah. It really takes something.
Yeah.
So then I just like, for now, a lot of people, you know what it is though, but there is something other than what you're experiencing right now. Because if you're not in a good place right now, just keep the faith in yourself. There is something else available. If you're willing to go and do the work, get some support, reach out, ask for help. I'll speak to you. I'm here. If you want to speak to me, I'd love to speak to you. But there's a lot of great people out there who are willing to give their time to people to shift them from where they're at to where they want to be going. And that's basically what I'm doing. That's why I do what I do, because I've turned my life around completely. I was having suicidal thoughts during that period of the breakdown. And then to be here now before you, I'm happier, more fulfilled and satisfied than I've ever been.
So would you say...
I've come from there to being here.
I heard this phrase years ago. I think it was Zig Ziglar who said it about, I don't know whether about himself in his earlier life or somebody else, but in that state, in that transition period, when you were in the wilderness, let's say, he's like spiritually, emotionally, and financially bankrupt. Yeah?
Empty.
Your
soul is empty.
Yeah. So
it's a dark place. It's a dark place.
A dark, nasty place, a lonely place to be as well. Yeah. A lonely place to be. So tell us about the book. It's called Man Up, 12 Rounds with Billy Schwer. Great title.
So this book was kind of born out of that.
Yeah.
At that period of my life, because so what was it that had me get to where I was then?
Yeah. In
that dark place to be here now, and it's all in the book, and that's been my life's work really over the last 18 years, really discovering. So what is it? Now I went to work on myself. I pulled myself to pieces to discover who Billy was. I peeled back all the layers of my identity to find out who Billy was. Because who am I? Who are we? The question, who are you really? Because who you are, maybe it's a facet of you. It's not who you fully are. So Billy the Boxer is part of me, but it's not who I am. So who am I? Yeah. And that was the question. So I went to work to discover what that was. And it wasn't a pretty journey. I pulled myself to pieces to discover me.
It's an interesting question though. Who am I? You know, I was reminded of this again at the weekend. I was doing a Bob Proctor seminar at the weekend, Science of Getting Rich. And in every talk, I've seen him deliver hundreds of talks. Unbelievable, phenomenal guy. 86 next birthday as well. And he's rocking it. He's unbelievable. He's got more energy than me. He's absolutely incredible. But he always goes into that thing about the identity crisis. He thought, who am I? And he said, you're not your name. And it's true. How many other people are there out there who've got a tag on them called Billy? Yeah. There's millions of Steves, millions of Malcolms, millions of, you know, so who are you? That is the fundamental question, finding yourself. And the answer's not on the outside, it's on the inside, isn't it, Bill?
And that's the journey that I've been on. So with people, my thing is, right, it's about, I mentioned about being happier, more fulfilled and satisfied than ever before. So happiness, fulfillment and satisfaction, right? Now the guys that I work with, and I ask them the question, would you like to have that? And it's kind of like, that's like the holy grail. If you could have all of those. So then my work is about, you can have that, regardless of what you're dealing with. That's available because it's an inside job. Now, happiness, right? So people are looking for happiness.
Yeah.
But you don't have to look for happiness because happiness is not lost. You have to kind of discover it. And it ain't over there, by the way. Happiness ain't outside of us. It's an inside job.
Inside.
Once you start to, and this is the work, right? The grappling you have to do with this bit, because I've done it for decades, grappling with what is happiness. Thinking it's external. It's the car. It's the lifestyle. It's the clothes. It's the holidays. It's that, whatever that is. But we all know, and we've all done it, and it ain't it. It's great to have all that. Now, have it. Have everything that you want. Have that. But you've got to realize that's not happiness. So then you go, what is happiness then? So once you discover and let that go, what I've got clear about for myself is that human beings, we always want more. We're going to want more. That's just a human being trait. And I've got to, now for me, getting that was, okay. And it's okay to want more. It's okay. Get the car, you get the car, then you want another one. You get the watch, then you want something else. It just don't ever stop. But that's okay though. There's nothing wrong with that. So once I accepted that about myself, I'm always going to want more. That kind of freed me up from it. Because then I could just be with what I got. And I want more. But it's okay. But I'm not relying on wanting more. That's not going to give me happiness or fulfillment or satisfaction. That's not it.
It's like a duality, isn't it? You have to be happy inside. Like Proctor says, spirit is forever for fuller expression. Yeah, so whether that's getting on to the next, I noticed, I met a guy years ago, I was introduced to him. He'd sold a very successful, very well-known business actually. And he'd achieved his life's dream. He bought a boat and he put it down in a place called Beaulieu-sur-Mer near to Monte Carlo. And I was living down in the south of France at the time. So he spent about 2.5 mil on this boat, and it was lovely. It was better than my boat, put it like that. Do you know what I mean? Better than your boat. And he really thought he'd arrived, and it was boats. He'd got catalogues of boats all over the place. And those guys, they are so ecstatic until the day comes when a Russian oligarch or someone else parks a boat next to theirs that makes theirs look like the service boat or a rowing boat. Now they're deflated, you know. So yeah, it is though. It's a natural thing to want more and more. But I actually think people who don't have that duality of being able to be happy on the inside, just for being, I mean, God, try not waking up, try not breathing, and then see how happy you are there, you know. And I think that people who are just looking for it on the outside, until they find out that, like you say, Billy, it's an inside job, they will lack the capacity to be happy completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that takes some figuring out. I've had to figure that out for myself.
It's not easy, is it?
You have to let go of something. You have to let go of your identity because it's very ego-driven. That's all ego-driven.
Yeah.
But now I'm 51 years of age, so I've got that time that's been on my side, and I've got that wisdom that allows for me to let go of that stuff. And I think as age plays a big part in this stuff as well.
Mature a little bit. I've seen your keynote speeches a few times, yeah, and I loved it. I mean, I could just come this afternoon and watch one. It's brilliant. But for people who haven't seen it, just tell us, you know, if a company hires you to come and talk to the team or to do a keynote at a conference or something like that, what do they get from Billy Schwer?
I always speak into the hearts and the minds of people. So once you get in there and get into their unconscious, then they can produce any results. So I've created a 7-step winning formula. So I work with teams, and I work very well with sales teams. It's all about performance. So my expertise is in how to win. I'm an expert in winning. How am I an expert in winning? Because I've lost loads. Yeah. So that allows me, and I've won loads. So I'm an expert in winning. But I talk about how to win more often. Because in life, you can't win all the time. Now, if you start to develop yourself. You've got to and do the right things. You can win more often. Now, if we're winning more often consistently over time, you're going to win the game. You're going to win the game, whatever the game is for you. But you need to establish what the game is. Now, in the corporate world, obviously, it's about numbers. But also, a lot of people that I work with, they want their teams to be happy, fulfilled, and satisfied while hitting the numbers. So if you can get that going on, if you can get that environment, the team's going to be aligned in producing the results for everybody. So that's what I bring to the table. It's bringing something a little bit different, obviously using boxing as a metaphor, but then it's the heart and the soul in it as well. And it's all about producing world-class results, because that's the world that I'm living in.
But when you work, when you do, you mentioned your cuts man, your trainer, the gym owner, your dad. Even though it's you who goes out into the ring, it's a team effort, isn't it? And you're all aligned with one purpose, one outcome in mind, and that is to win that belt.
That's it. Now, as a team, because without teamwork, the dream don't work. Yeah. The team has to be in full communication. Now, if you've got a sales team and they're dealing with something at home, they might come into the office and they might not be on full power. So if you can identify that and get that cleared up, then they're going to get back to full power. So if you're happy at home, in life, you're going to come into work and you're going to produce better results. You're going to impact the bottom line, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, but it's about leaving that, because nobody has a perfect life, do they? You know, nobody drives into the office fresh from the land of milk and honey. Yeah, everybody's got stress in one form or another, so it's how you deal with it. But you know, and I'm sure a boxer, when he gets into the ring, he might have issues with his girlfriend, he might have issues with any number of things, but you have to leave that behind, don't you, when you go to perform?
And that's a skill, it's learning. So you mentioned as a fighter in relationships, I was rubbish at relationships. I broke them all. I was terrible. And it's because I just didn't know how to deal with that side of it, because I was so focused. I was willing to sacrifice everything to become the champion, and I didn't know anything else. Yeah. So I'm an expert on relationships, just not my own.
Yeah.
I figured that bit out, thankfully, over time.
So
but it's an ability to be able to park things up. If you're in a team environment, it's having people that you can, maybe if you need to offload something with somebody, just so that you can park it up for the day and then get on with the job at hand. So that's important. So that's another element that
support each other.
Support one another, to leave things and let things go, because like you say, there ain't no perfect life. But sometimes we got to step up and we got to deal with stuff in the face of whatever we're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's not. That's what champions are about. They got the ability to be able to jab and move. I talk about jab and moving, that looking things at new, different approaches, new ways of winning.
Yes, I get it.
And dealing with all the challenges at the same time that are coming your way. And that's mastery. That's mastery of self. Dealing with that and figuring that out, and having the right support team around you to allow you to rise and shine and be the best that you can be. Because sometimes we get just dulled down. We're not full power. Yeah. We're not fully self-expressed. That's the cost of the stress. So if we're dealing with stress in our lives, the cost of it is it impacts the bottom line, but we're not free. You want to be free, right? We want people to be free. So if you're truly being who you really are, then you're going to produce better results in all areas of your life, and you're going to be happier.
So that's interesting you've said that. This wasn't something I'd thought to ask you, but it's come up, so I'll ask you anyway. So this was something I was looking at. I mean, Joe Rogan's talked about this. Jordan Belfort's talked about this as well. And it's this culture within a lot of companies that you have to act and be a certain way, which is contrary to how you would naturally be, yeah? In this, like, what I'm going to call it, let's call it a new era. Let's be really polite and call it a new era of political correctness, yeah, and stuff like that. So what you can't say, what you know, all of the other, some ridiculous stuff, the same as you. So if somebody, like you said there, we are for fuller expression, and if we express who we are, we bring our own natural personality and creativity to the party, which is what we've been hired for. We've not been hired to be half the person we are by suppressing our true personalities. Do you see a lot of that in cultures and companies you go into?
I think people are fearful of really truly expressing themselves and being who they really want to be.
Yeah.
Because you know what? We're all frightened of what people are going to think of us. Am I going to get it wrong? But it's about leadership. So if the leaders, the owners of the companies, the sales directors, they're the leaders. They're the people who put the culture into the team. Now, if those guys lead by example and they put that into the culture, that it's okay, it's safe, and you've got to produce the results, but let's talk about it. Let's discuss it and see what it looks like, and then allow for stuff to show up. Well, that's coming from the head. That's got to come from the head.
Trickles down the pyramid.
And it's got to be a culture, and people have got to be allowed. I think it's changing. I think it is changing, but ultimately, they're employed to produce the results. So that's got to be taken care of. It's how do we do it from the inception of it to producing the result? That journey, what does that look like? Now, I just believe that in a team environment, if you're happy, you're fulfilled, and you're in communication and things are nice, you ain't going to get it right all the time. Things are going to go wrong. But over time, you're going to have a stronger, more aligned team producing better results. And that's leadership, right? And then if you put that into the culture, then you'll have a happier team producing better results over time.
Yeah, sure. So speaking of results, that's a good word. That segues us in nicely to what I want to talk to you about now. So you've put a brand new program together, a 12-step, 12-week, 12 rounds with Billy Schwer program. Who is it for, and what kind of results can people expect to get from that in general? I know they're all going to be individual, but who is that specifically for, that course?
So I've created a success model. I don't know if you can see that. It's a bit.
I can see, yeah.
So this model was born out of a time when I was going through my own personal transformation. I went and did a program called the Landmark Forum. Now, okay. I know a lot of you would have heard of that. So that was my initiation into a new world of thinking, a new realm. And it had such an impact on me that shifted my whole thinking. And I've been doing their work since. And that's like 03 that I did the Landmark Forum. So many, many years ago. So that allowed me to create that success model while I was in their programs. And then since then, I've done loads and loads of work, various different types of work. I meditate most days. I'm looking at all aspects of human beings, from nutrition, from physical training, from hormones, meditation. I thought everything, because everything plays a part. So I've created a program at this time, and it's how to change yourself and your life in 12 weeks. The world champion way. So I have a way. I have my beliefs and what I've done to get me here, where I'm at right now. All the stuff that I've used and I've done, that's what I'm sharing with people. And I'm guiding people to get what I've got. Happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction. Oh, and by the way, you're going to feel great while you're at it. And you're going to make loads of money as well. And your relationships will be great. So that's a byproduct. That's a byproduct. So the guys that I work with are middle-aged men, mainly, because that's who I am, and they're my people, and I have such an impact with those guys, because we're all the same. We're all dealing with same stuff. So as an executive, for example, business owners, I'll tell you about one guy that I'm working with right now. We worked together end of last year, and after 3 months, he'd lost over a stone in weight. I've got him meditating. I've got him fasting. And he's doubled his business. His turnover's gone from just over 50 grand a month to over 100 grand a month.
We all need some of that.
Right. So, and he feels great. And he's lost over a stone, and he's training. He's booked himself in to do a marathon. His nutrition. So as a whole, he's transformed himself. And the bottom line is he's doubled his business. So, wow, that's the kind of results that people are getting. And it ain't what you think it is. Because it's not about doing more of the same. It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's things from a completely different view. And a lot of guys I speak to, they're open. They're open because they're in their 40s and they're going, well, let me have a look at something. I've got to this place. And I've had some amazing conversations. They've got everything. They've got everything, but there's something missing.
Yeah.
They want the bits that's missing. So what's missing? And that's the work that we do. Let's go and discover what it is. And for me, it's a pure privilege to just be a part of people's lives when we're all dealing with this stuff, because we're all dealing with the same thing over and over again.
Of course.
And then what I do is I give people an access to something they just didn't even think was possible for themselves and their lives. And then we go to work, and then the results are produced out there in the world. First and foremost, over here with them. The inside job's got to be done. And that takes courage to do that. Yeah. But if you speak to a successful man who's in his 40s and he's cheesed everything and he goes, yeah, I'm up for that. I want to look at that because maybe there is something else. And there is something else. Trust me, there's more. So I work with guys who want more. Yeah. They know that they want more. They know that they can be more, and they're willing to do the work to get more.
Yeah. Yeah. To make the changes. It's interesting you say in the 40s, because a period in my 40s, I'd probably say just over middle 40s. Things were moving very smoothly, and it seemed to have its own flow and its own momentum. And I told myself the story, this is it. You don't really need to do anything anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden we hit a wall, and everything hit the fan, and you realize you've got to go back to square one. I have a friend who's just literally starting again at 56. He got screwed over in a deal of selling his business. So there's going to be a legal battle about that. But, 6 months ago, the guy was looking forward to a check of 2 million. He's not been paid, and he's at start again, commission only.
Wow. So
it's hard.
Yes. And anything can happen at any point. Look at what we're dealing with now. Completely unexpected stuff. So we have to be responsible, and we have to try and get our lives in order. So when these things happen, that we can manage ourselves as best we can. So we have to be responsible for that as we're going through it. But we all get caught out. I've been caught out. We get knocked back. These things happen. But it's having the willingness to come back in your 50s. A lot of men's fortunes can be made in their 50s and onwards.
Oh, yeah.
It's been done. It's been done before. It's possible.
You've got a head start, really. You've got all that experience. But I think it was Tony Robbins. This is so poignant, so pertinent for right now. Because who'd have seen this coming 6 months ago, a year ago? Who would have seen this coming? And what this has created is mass global uncertainty, And Tony Robbins famously said, it's kind of obvious, but he made the quote that the quality of your life will be in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably deal with at any one time. And is that ever relevant now, Billy?
Exactly. And I talk about the gap. The gap. We're always living in a gap because we're always trying to get somewhere. So we think over there is going to be, that's where it's at. So we're in the gap. So here we are trying to travel to get somewhere. We're thinking happiness or money or whatever that thing is. But it's like that. And it's uncertain. The gap is being in the uncertainty. So it's being comfortable living in the gap, in pursuit of something, on your way towards somewhere, being happy and fulfilled and satisfied, which you can be if you're moving towards a destination that you've consciously chosen, that you're aware of, and that's your choice. I talk about, I've got a 7-step winning formula. Step number 1 is win or lose, you choose. So it's being consciously aware of the choices that you're making every day. But we unconsciously make choices which cause us to lose. I mean, there's another epidemic that we're dealing with right now, and that's overweight, obesity. I heard last week 86% of people are overweight. So that's another epidemic, one that we can choose to impact. Yeah. We're not responsible. So we have to, because we unconsciously choose, like the lockdown now, people might be eating the wrong things, but they're unconsciously choosing that for whatever reason. But the impact of that is going to have an effect later.
Big time.
And big time. Look at that, the weight loss epidemic. It's crazy. It's crazy. But we have to get responsible for the future that we're creating, the future that we're living into. And we got to wake up. My thing as well for the guys I work with is that we need to wake up. We got to wake up. Because if you ain't waking up, it ain't going to go well.
They're going to be awake if you're around. That's all I can say, dude. I come 7,000 miles away from you on a computer screen, and I can feel the energy. And so for anybody watching this on Facebook Live or anything, it's made my computer's not that loud on the speakers, but Billy has got tremendous energy. And when you meet him, you can just feel this energy. It gets onto your skin in a very positive way, you know. It's really awesome. So Billy, just like in conclusion, because we've just gone over an hour here, why would you say
we're only getting started? We're just getting started. That's the warm-up. That's the warm-up.
That's the warm-up. I love it. Why would you say that anybody should seriously, I mean, I know why, and you know why, but let's just share with everybody else why people should consider having a coach or a mentor for a period of time to get them either out of a dark place, help them through a transition, or help them adapt to the new paradigm, the new changes that are being brought, and deal with the uncertainty. What would you say?
Yeah, it's a great conversation. It's one that we should be having more of, because we know what we know, right? We all know what we know, and it's got us to where we're at. And if we're not bubbling with happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction, then there's something missing, or there's something you're not looking at. So what I've been good at in my life is, if something's not working for myself, what is it then? Is it my relationship? Is it money? What is it? So then I'll distinguish what it is. Then I will go to work to dismantle it and get to the source of what's causing the upset.
Yes.
It's difficult to do on your own, because you know what is, sometimes you're so thick in it, you can't see it. And we're so conditioned and programmed to be the way that we are, it's very difficult to be something else. So you need another set of eyes, another view of what you're dealing with, to give you an access to seeing it in a different way, from a different perspective. Yeah. So then, because you're always going to get what you've always got, right? Henry Ford, that's what he said. If you keep on doing the same things over again, you're going to get the same results. So if you want a different result in your life, and you're wherever you're at right now, you need some help. You need some external help to really move you and shift you forward for a period of time. But then the journey's ongoingly forever. It don't ever stop, because me and you, we know that we're developing ourselves every day. We're listening to stuff. We're reading stuff. We're engaged in this level of conversation. So this is a conversational environment. So if you're in this environment, which is uplifting and empowering and inspiring, that's going to make an impact to your thinking. So your thinking won't be the same. So you'll be going off in a different tangent, one that you choose to go off on, rather than be at the effect of your situation, your life. With a coach, you get to engineer and develop and create and design the future that you really want for yourself.
Sure. I think it's also, I was talking with Peter Sage the other day, and he mentioned a few times about the particular thing we were talking about a higher consciousness thinking. And when you've been exposed and involved and really start to soak up and understand personal development, sort of almost mixed with sort of universal truths, laws, a little bit of spirituality, it does raise your consciousness, the way that you think about things and the way that you look about things. I really do believe, well, I know it does. And you know, the other thing about a mentor and a coach, what would you say about that thing, accountability?
Accountability is thrown around a lot, and I believe it's great to be held accountable. I'm not one, I don't like being held accountable, because that's, some people say that's the thing that you need, and it is for some people. And I think it's different strokes for different folks. We all need different ways to move ourselves forward. So the accountability thing, is it? Yes, it is, and no, it ain't, because I believe if you truly want something, you're going to make it happen. So whether you got somebody ringing you up every day telling you, have you done X, Y, Z? I don't need that. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And if I'm inspired and I'm empowered, because I'm going to do it. So motivation is another thing that people find hard. People talk about, I'm not motivated. It's hard work, motivation, but look at being inspired. So if you're inspired towards something, your actions are going to be inspired actions and not motivated by something. Because motivation, you've got to drag yourself forward.
Yeah, it's hard.
Inspired is light, it's uplifting, it's empowered, and you'll move towards somewhere easy and freely, consistently over time. So that accountability thing, if you need that, if that works for you, then that's what you need. It's just, you got to find for yourself the thing that works for you.
I was just interested in your perspective because I understand very, very clearly everything that you've just said there completely, yeah? But the whole thing, and you've got to have that significant why, that goal, and you've got to have it broken down into all its elements, and you've got to understand in your heart of hearts why you want that and what you're prepared to do to go after it. But I am a person, even though I understand all that, I do like a mental pat on the back, you know. So whilst the accountability for me in having a coach or working with somebody, it's not crucial to get me to do it because we've got to do the work anyway. I do enjoy that part about it as well, because like you say, everyone's different, and that's just my sort of makeup, you know?
Yeah, maybe rather than being held accountable, maybe you want to be acknowledged for the work that you've done over time.
Acknowledged, yeah.
Get the pat on the back, to be acknowledged. Maybe you need that more than being held accountable. Because you want, listen, we all want to be loved. We all want to be acknowledged. We want to be made to feel special. We want that, and if you need that, that's what you need. Yeah, it's different for each and every one of us. So we have to kind of figure that out as well, because it's such a. So I position myself as a personal performance coach. Yes. Because performance is very personal. So what's going to have you perform is different to what has me perform. You need a pat on the back. You need a pat on the back. You need to be acknowledged. Somebody else needs to be kicked up the arse. It's different.
And other people will just get it and do it and more by the next time you have a session with them.
We have to figure that bit out, and that's not an overnight thing, because a lot of people don't really know what's driving them anyway, what they really need.
Yeah, what the core drivers are.
Some people don't like being told what to do. I don't like being told what to do. So if you're going to tell me what to do with a iron fist, it ain't going to work for me.
Well, that's not the way to do it anyway. It's a collaborative thing, but it's amazing. I mean, again, just going back to something I heard Proctor say when he coaches people. He said it was something like sometimes he'll stop working with people. He said because they come to be coached by you, yet they want to be coached their way, not your way. And it's kind of, well, what's the point? If you're going to continue doing what you're doing, because you're there to help them change, aren't you?
And I've made that mistake. I've worked with people who are just not coachable, and it just doesn't work out.
Uncoachable.
You've got to be coachable. My trainer, Jack, when I was with him, I just did whatever he told me. Why would I not? I've employed him. I've chosen him to train me and coach me. Why would I not do what he's telling me? It's crazy. But then that's another thing that you've got to deal with, because not everybody's willing to be coachable because they've got their stuff going on. They want to be right. They want to domineer you. They want all that. They've got their own makeup. But that's why they're with you, but they're not accepting that that's the bit that they got to change. And I've made that mistakes, and I'd like to think that I don't do that anymore. Because if people are not ready to go to work, I don't want to work with them because it's pointless for everybody.
But that's the key thing, isn't it? What you've just said there. I've made that mistake, so you've recognised I've made a mistake there. And I don't do that, or I'm aware not to do that anymore. So you can step outside of yourself and see yourself, or you can actually see yourself going back into that old familiar groove, and you can be outside of yourself like another person and say, Billy, don't do that anymore. It's this way, but it's having that awareness.
Yeah, and that's mastery of self.
Yeah.
So once you work on yourself over time, listen, we all learn through experiences. So I've had that experience, and now I've taken the learning, and then I now use that in my life presently.
Yes.
So lots of us learn. We learn through experience. That's the way that I learn. And I've learned through the blood, the sweat, the tears, the good, the bad, the ugly experiences, which I'm fully responsible for. So those good, the bad, and the ugly experiences which I caused, I'm fully responsible for them, and I get them, and I've got my lessons. So now, hopefully, next time around, when they show themselves again, I will react and respond differently.
Yes.
But as with wisdom and age, I can do that differently now. Because, you know, a lot of us, we have a knee-jerk reaction. Now, those knee-jerk reactions are never any good. So they just repeat their patterns. Somebody says something to you in a certain way which triggers your reptilian brain, and you trigger something, and we kick off, and it's never any good. No. So then what we've got to do is have the ability to do that bit, try and catch yourself if you can, which is very, very difficult. And if you've made a bit of a mess of something, then you've got to have the courage to hold your hands up and go, I apologize. You said that, I got triggered, I said that, and it was the wrong thing to do. And I just want to apologize and make amends, just clean up the mess. That's what I'm very good at. I've gone back to, I mentioned jokingly, my ex-wife. Now, my ex-wife, I love my ex-wife. She's remarried, she's got a great life. I wish her love, everything. I love her. And I've completed the mess that I made. And it's all good. So then it's ongoingly, if you've got any stuff that needs to be cleared up in your past, get it dealt with.
You've forgiven each other and you've forgiven yourselves.
Steve, you got it right. Because here's the thing. Another question for people is, do you love yourself? So I never used to love myself. So I could honestly say I love myself. I love my life, and I love the future that I'm creating. That gives me happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction. Right there. So I've had to do the work to get some self-love and go and accept myself for my flaws. I'm not perfect. And if there's anything outstanding, any messes that I've made, I do the best I can to get them complete and dealt with, so then I can be free to be Billy.
Sure.
And we're not bad people. We're all good people doing the best we can.
Yeah. But it's that thing, isn't it? There, it takes me into, and I'm sure you're banging, I know you are, into that whole sort of gratitude thing. So my first thoughts every morning is of my family, is that, I'm breathing, I've got another shot at it today. But then I think of my kids, my wife, I think of all of us of a family. Yes, we've got food in the fridge. Yes, we've got some money in the bank. Thank you and I'm grateful for that and for the opportunity that grounds you for the day. Anything else? Look, we all need a whole lot more in terms of various other things. But if you just take any one of those things off kilter or out of the equation, then that's when it really wobbles, and you realise that everything else you're going to go through in the day pales into insignificance to that.
brilliant, Steve. That's such a great, for everyone listening to get what Steve just said. That's a great way to start the day. Now, I do the same thing. As I'm coming out of sleep into my awake state, I start to ground myself in those things. I start to look at creating my day and then gratitude. What am I grateful for? Pick a few things. You can find loads of things.
Yeah.
Then that sets you up for the day. But then you get an opportunity as you're coming out of your slumber to really design and create the day. What you're going to do, what you're going to say no to, what you're going to say yes to. And then once you design the day, then you're at the cause of your life rather than being at the effect of stuff happening. Because once you get out of bed and hit the day, once you get on your phone, the emails are pinging away, then it's bang.
I think the best thing to do in the morning is not to, people have got into this habit of reaching for the phone, going on, that is the wrong way. You've got to do that meditation, get yourself centered, do the gratitude. And what you said there, when you're coming out of your slumber and when you're going into it at night, when you're going into that theta, they call it theta, don't they, the state that you're in, that is when your subconscious is the most susceptible to suggestion and planting seeds, good or bad, and it doesn't care.
And here's a great thing to add to that, Steve, because you just reminded me. So when you're going to sleep, you want to go to sleep in a good mood.
Yes.
If you've got stuff that needs to be dealt with, get it dealt with and spoken and exercised out before you go to sleep, because how you go to sleep is how you're going to wake up, possibly.
I think so. I think so. But that is, Neville Goddard said, it's the state akin to sleep. That theta state is when you can use your imagination for all the good things, the screen, the cinema screen of your mind, to impress upon it the things that you want, but also to impress upon it the things that you've got real deep, heartfelt gratitude for, and reinforce it. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to end the day and to start the day.
To start and end the day, yeah. So finally, because I've got an appointment in a few minutes' time, why would, if I'm a company owner, or if I'm an executive who's feeling stressed, maybe middle-aged, whatever, why would particularly, I probably want a coach or a mentor, but why would I want Billy Schwer?
If they've been listening to this, I don't need to say anything. They get me. They get my heart. They get who I am. And that's who I am.
I'll tell you why, because you mean it. This is me. I heard Jim Rohn speak once, who was just like tremendous. And he said something to this audience. He said, I'm going to share some ideas with you. He said, don't ask yourself if I'm right. Ask, is he sincere?
Got it.
That's the thing. And you are one of the most sincere. You wear it on your sleeve, man. You know, you wear it on your sleeve. You say it as you think it. And that is it. You know, nobody wants a coach who is going to flower it up, who is going to give them life through rose-colored glasses. Because guess what? That's not what life's about. You know what life's about. When you said about the blood, the sweat, the tears, the sacrifice, the experiences, in your case, the near-death experiences. Every time you got into that ring for someone to batter your skull and you do the same to them, I mean, they're getting, you are Billy Schwer, you are the real deal, man. Thanks.
Well, that's why I'm bringing all that to the table, but then I'm bringing 20 years of my own personal growth, my own experience with life outside of the boxing ring of life. And I've been through the mixer. I've experienced so much stuff in the ring and out of the ring. And here I am today. And this is it. I'm living and breathing it.
Yeah.
And that's who I am.
It's a great metaphor. Hey, Billy, thank you so much for joining me on here. It's been a mega privilege, pleasure, good laugh, and really, really inspiring as well to see you on here. And I love you on the next one.
I love you. Great talking to you.
Same to you, dude. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.